So, as usual, we're in an interesting moment, collectively. Joe Biden is the president-elect, and in about 50 days, he will be taken over, and Donald Trump will exit the White House to a career as a professional complainer, I think. He's going to continue relitigating the 2020 election for the rest of his life, I believe. And he'll make a lot of money doing that, maybe enough to pay off his debts, maybe not. It does seem, though, that Biden is betting the Republicans will somehow come around and play ball with him if he pardons or just doesn't pursue Trump. I mean, the state of New York is going to do it if the Justice Department doesn't, if Biden's Justice Department doesn't. So I say Biden should just leave it to them. But, of course, Biden, just as when Obama thought he could come in and be peacemaker, play peacemaker with the Republicans, they're not going to play ball. They're going to block everything Biden wants to do. He's, unlike Trump, not going to sort of force his appointees and his cabinet picks through. He's going to try to concede to the Republicans and nominate people that they will feel comfortable approving in Congress. And, none of them are going to be progressive or in any way impede his neoliberal austerity agenda, right? I mean, that's what Biden is, that's what he's got in store for us, and so his cabinet picks will reflect that. It remains to be seen what people like Warren and Bernie will do from the Senate in this new political environment. It remains to be seen what AOC and the rest of the squad will do in Congress. Nancy Pelosi remains in charge there, but, she's got 2 years left, so there's going to be jockeying going on for the leadership of the party when she steps down. But, yeah, where do we go from here? I certainly did want to see Donald Trump leave the White House, but there seems to be this assumption that we can simply return to the prior state of normalcy, as if the threat of civilization-ending climate change, ongoing war to protect oil reserves, and the status of the U.S. dollar. So with these ecological catastrophes and, scientific time limits placed on the industrial mode of production, these long pre-existed the crisis that Trump brought. American militarism long pre-existed Trump, and in fact, Trump, if he did anything positive, it was to, in some ways, try to rein in the military-industrial complex. Of course, he sold a bunch of weapons to the Saudis, like every American president has since the end of World War II. But he did, avoid escalating anything overseas, and it remains to be seen what happens with Iran in these next few weeks. But in general, I think a return to normalcy under a Biden administration means a return to American militarism overseas. In other words, a foreign policy of neoconservatism, which is exactly what all of the Trump-hating Republicans that Biden has been courting will want to see, right? Conservative foreign policy like the Bush years, the good old days of the Iraq War, and so on. And it'll mean a return to the sort of neoliberal consensus on economics, which is, print as much money as the big corporations and the banks need to continue their Ponzi scheme, and maybe pocket change whatever's left over for the working people. That's the economic plan. not even offering, I'm betting, a public option in the new healthcare legislation that Biden's going to try to push. Just like Obama didn't even get a public option with his Affordable Care Act, which really was, this whole individual mandate that the Republicans have been going after and were able to get rid of. That was really only in there for the insurance companies, right? To make sure that they could turn a profit on, and have more customers that were forced into these exchanges to buy overpriced for-profit healthcare plans. So the individual mandate wasn't really for the people, and so it's weird that the Republicans are going after it. We're really confused on healthcare, and the Democrats certainly aren't going to be able to fix it. There's nothing to fix as far as they're concerned. It's a highly profitable industry, right? And under neoliberalism, that's all that matters. It's like I just watched John Mackey on Joe Rogan, and he was talking about how intellectuals are in academia is critical of capitalism and pushes socialism because they feel like they lose status in a market economy, like they're not of value culturally. And so John Mackey is like, man, if only we had more capitalism and fewer intellectuals, like if only we had more profit seeking and rent seeking and less literacy, then man, society would be awesome right now. That's John Mackey's prescription for us, and so talk about decadence, talk about late capitalism. I mean, it's basically, John Mackey is like self-owning, I think, and there's not even much that I need to add in by way of critique. And so the real challenge now is imagining alternatives, and that's not easy. And utopian thinking can be dangerous if we get too fixated on ideals that we're willing to use whatever means are at hand to achieve that end. Then atrocities are committed, and we see that historically. So how do we imagine alternatives in a sort of open, pragmatic, relational way so that we remain attentive to our mistakes and we learn from our mistakes? We acknowledge complexity, that we're never going to be in control of society in any top-down way. We're never going to be in control of nature. We have to enter into relationship with each other and with the rest of the community of life. A democracy of fellow creatures, right, as Whitehead puts it. And none of the politicians are offering that to us. Not even close. But that doesn't mean we have to forego politics. It means we need to imagine a new political frontier. Yes, the votes that take place in these legislative bodies, municipally, at the county, state, and federal level, are important. We need to continue that process and not pretend like it's not where power is largely wielded. But we also need to carve out new sources of political power through direct action and through new forms of organization and mutual aid for a political purpose that our capitalist society says shouldn't exist, right? We have to, in a way, prove that there is such a thing as the human spirit and that it has not yet been squashed by this rapacious industrial capitalist mode of production, that it's still there and that it is ultimately the future of our species is the expression of this spirit and not the extraction of extropy from the earth until all that's left is a dead carcass. And perhaps, a few of us will follow Musk and the other billionaires to Mars. Like that's the future of our species in these people's minds. And I'm not blaming them, right? It's a mentality. I don't believe in evil people. I believe in evil ideas. However, so if the earth has a future, I think it's going to look different than the capitalist imaginary.